Okay, it's 2012 and it's Men in Black 3. This is the third Men in Black film, hence the 3 in the name. Although it's interesting because the Men in Black 2 had 2 in Roman numerals. Men in Black 3, in an effort to distance itself from the disaster that Men in Black 2 was, uses the Arabic 3, not Roman numeral 3. Although in some of the marketing and DVD packaging, it's Roman numeral. Anyway, unlike a lot of the third in the series sequels, this is actually very good. It's certainly better than Men in Black 2, which had the effect of not making you feel very good. You felt quite down after you saw it, and you'd think, well, why did I pay money to see this? I felt happier before I saw it. Anyway, in many ways, it has very little to do with Men in Black 2. It almost pretends to forget it happens. Any characters that were introduced in Men in Black 2 are just ignored. But it does dovetail quite nicely with Men in Black 1, and what we know of the story purely from the premise of Men in Black 1. This time, Agent J, Will Smith, I'm sure you know, is the lead character. In effect, he's the lead. Everything's the premise is around him. Essentially, Agent K, who is Tommy Lee Jones as the present-day older character, and Josh Brolin as the younger 1960s rendition of the same person, has ceased to exist in that timeline at that age. And the problem seems to be that Boris the Animal, who is played by Jermaine Clement of Flight of the Conchords. You may know of Flight of the Conchords as a comedy music duo. Jermaine Clement plays Boris the Animal very well. Boris the Animal has tinkered with time, and which is easy for him because he's an alien. So off Agent J has to go into time travel. Now, there aren't that many plays on temporal paradoxes caused by Agent J's actions. It's more a case of go back to the 60s, do stuff, which includes meeting Andy Warhol, who turns out also to be an agent. It's quite a clever move. It's mostly just routine temporal commuting. Go back in time, do stuff, come back home. Keeps it simple, I suppose. Otherwise, you lose the mass audience. You know, there's plenty of opportunity for butterfly effect type of temporal paradoxes, but none of that really. It keeps it simple. Andy Warhol turning out to be an agent, incidentally, is a bit of a reverse move because almost every weird thing in Men in Black 1 and 2, weird personalities, famous people, it was explained, oh, they were aliens. But now we've got a very weird person who turns out not to be an alien, but an agent. So, David Rash, by the way, David Rashi, that's how you pronounce it, I think. David Rashi stars briefly as Agent X. And now he is, of course, famous for starring in the late 80s television series Sledgehammer, which was excellent. And if you've ever had to stay up very late through the night watching television in the 80s and 90s, like I did when I was on Magazine, yes, you watch a lot of Sledgehammer. Will Smith, he proposed the premise for Men in Black 3 during the filming of Men in Black 2, so quite some time ago, suggesting that he, Agent J, travels back in time to rescue Agent K, which would would expose some of the backstory of K. But difficulties in organising the project delayed progress by, well, coming up to nearly a decade. The aliens' design was such that the present-day aliens should look like present-day aliens, you know. But back in the 60s, the aliens should be retro aliens, like the ones in science fiction B movies, you know, fishbowl helmets and exposed brains and things like that. Sacha Baron Cohen was actually penciled in as a possibility for Boris the Animal. That didn't go ahead. When they started shooting, they didn't have a second or third act finished, but they were quite impressed with what they had so far as they were going on. They realised it was a gamble. It's either going to be a big disaster or a big success. And as they started shooting, even though it was a completely unfinished script, they knew they were onto something. So it was shot in 2D and converted to 3D in post-pro. There are some good techniques for doing that. They originally planned to do it in 3D, but they didn't want to shoot it in 3D, so convert to 3D in post-pro. The film's soundtrack features quite a few good songs from the 60s, and there was talk at the time, for a very long time, for another sequel to follow this, but there was a lot of stop-starting occurring over a few years, and that seems to have petered out. So, Men in Black 3, 2012. Thank you very much. Have a very